Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cherries Red Army YouTube channel. We have an exciting debate show coming your way as the playoffs kick off on Monday, and we have guests from each team giving us their thoughts on how their team may do. So, hope you've had a good week. And for AFC Bournemouth fans, it's been positive news out there with some good stuff coming out of the club, and also you, the supporters, helping the community as well. Yes, this is an AFC Bournemouth fan channel, but we want everyone from all four clubs to get involved this evening. You can get interacted in the chat. Let us know your thoughts, and we will show some on the screen. And we're also open to some friendly banter. Now, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, really appreciate that. If you could, we're so close to our sort of next milestone. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Also, hit the notification bell to be notified when new content is out. And if you like what you see this evening, hit the like button as well. So let's get on with the playoff debate. Let's get our guests on, shall we? Let's do it. So we have Carlo from the Reds Report for Barnsley. We have Billy from Beesotted Brentford podcast, and we have Luke from Swanscast. How you doing, guys?
Good, actually. How you doing?
Yeah, excellent stuff. And let's just remind ourselves of that league table that finished last week. It was the top two for Norwich and Watford taking the automatic places. Brentford took third with 87 points. Swansea fourth with 80. Barnsley fifth with 78. And AFC Bournemouth took sixth place with 77 points. So let's start with you, Billy. Just give us a sort of short summary on your season and how you feel about finishing in third.
Bit of a weird one, actually. Obviously, everyone knows last season. Oh, thanks for inviting us on as well. Thanks, Kirk, as well. And good to see you guys as well. Swanscast and Carlo from the Reds Report. It's been a weird season for us because it's not weird because obviously last season was just strange. You know, the pandemic and everything like that. We had an elongated season. We went into the playoffs last season. Obviously, we played Swansea there. Then we got to the playoff final. You know, we came out of lockdown on fire. You know, we won pretty much every single game, except for the two games that we needed to win at the back end to actually get us automatic promotion. So we went into the playoffs. You know, we got the win over Swansea, and then we went into the Fulham game. And it's really strange, Fulham, because Fulham literally are our biggest rivals. You know, some people say it's QPR, some people say it should be everyone else, but Fulham are our biggest rivals. But because of the lockdown, we went into the game, but it just wasn't quite the same. And I think, you know, just looking back on it, Brentford are a little bit cagey how they went into that. I think we kind of overthink it too much. We just did what we had to do. I think we could have probably beaten them in that game. But I think, like I said, we overthought it too much. So when we came into this season, I think fans were a little bit kind of like, we're not quite sure what to expect. We've sold our best players or some very good players in Ollie Watkins and Ben Rama. And we've got in some new players, but we don't know what they're going to be like. And the start that we had is a typical Brentford start. We didn't do great. We did all right. You know, we kind of were bubbling along, but we weren't doing fantastic. And I think at one stage we were 18th, around about October and November. We were actually 18th in the league. And I think there was quite a few fans were, you know, Brentford fans were actually shouting for Thomas Frank to be sacked, actually, which sporadically keeps on happening around the time, which is, I think it's a little strange that, because listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but you know, you've got to look at what happened last season, the problems that we've had this season. He's had a new players to try and integrate and stuff like that. So I haven't been doing that bad. But then we went on that wicked run. I think it was 21 games unbeaten. And that took us into the new year. And everyone was raving for us. And everyone expected us to just get automatic promotion. And like I said to you, we were looking really on fire. But then since then, we went on a terrible run where we weren't losing loads, but we just couldn't win any games. And that's, as a result of that, we dipped out of the automatic promotion race, and some people were actually tipping us to actually dip out of the playoff race as well, because the form was looking not so great. And I'll be honest with you as well, you know, even myself, a lot of Brentford fans are thinking if we get the playoffs, we ain't going into the playoffs with any momentum. We were really, really scared. But I think what shows you about this division, you know, bad teams don't turn into, you know, good teams don't turn into bad teams, and that accounts for any of, you know, the four teams on there today. You know, that you don't turn into bad teams overnight. And also the fact is that you just need a little bit of form at the right time, and it's about timing. And I'm thinking that, you know, we've come into the back end of the season. We haven't lost in, I think it's 12 games. You know, we've let in one goal in, I don't know, 7 or 8. You know, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we have reached the form at the right time, because at the back end of the season, we haven't been looking too bad. But I'm saying this all with a touch wood, because you just never know. Things can change all in one game.
And Carlo, you've been on the channel before. Barnsley made it. They got to the playoffs. Just remind us what you do for Barnsley and the support you give. And a summary of your season.
So I, together with Steve, I present the Reds Report. That's been going for about 6 years. Used to be a live radio show, but due to COVID, the studio shut, so it becomes like a vlog stroke podcast. Barnsley season, it's not a season of 2 halves, it's a season of 2 months and then the rest. So the first 2 months, Gerard Struber is in charge. Everybody's expecting big things from Barnsley, and that didn't really happen. 3 draws in the first 7 matches. Struber has had enough of the climate in South Yorkshire and goes to manage New York Red Bulls. Valerian Ismail comes in. Wikipedia got a great hit in South Yorkshire that day because nobody had heard of him. But the ex-LASK head coach looked at what he had, and he said in an interview earlier this week, I think it's really important, 3 matches turned season for him. That was a heavy defeat at Cardiff away. That was the defeat against Chelsea in the FA Cup, and then the win at Brentford. And he said that's when we started getting things right. And obviously after that FA Cup match in February against Chelsea, we went on that run with 12, 13 matches unbeaten. And there is no pressure on Barnsley, but don't kid yourself. This manager is a winner, and he will expect, Wembley, a win and promotion and nothing else. But I think it's a very young side. We've got a very unique style, and love it or hate it, but it works for our club because, well, we finished in 5th, didn't we? That means we're in the playoffs. So it's on a formula that works with the players that work. Very young squad. But it's been the most memorable season, probably apart from that 96-97 one.
Luke, welcome back to Cherries Red Army again. Tell us a bit about what you do for Swansea. And you snuck into the playoffs last season, but more comfortable this season.
Yeah, cheers for having us back this time. You are right. Let me introduce Swanscast first. So we're just a fan channel. We started up in January, so not that old really, but it's going well. Do similar stuff to yourself really, but for our club. So anyone welcome to come over and check us out. But yeah, we snuck in last season. Didn't really expect it. A little bit of a mad last day. So what was it, like 5-6 goal swing? Can't remember off the top of my head now, but crazy to get in there. So the pressure last season wasn't really on the playoffs. We came away from Brentford, going into the second leg, nearly getting through. They kind of turned up in the first half and showed us a bit of a lesson, though. However, this season we've sort of built on it, started really well, and really been quite consistent, I think, for most of the year. I don't think we dropped out of the top 6, really, actually, for all year, if maybe right at the start, but I can't remember a time when we weren't in there. So you'd say comfortable, although the last couple of months, you can ask any Swans fan and they wouldn't say it's been comfortable. It's not all smooth and plain sailing as it might look on the league table. I think since February, our form has been, you could say we're grinding out results, really. We're not really scoring enough. Our defence wasn't as solid as it was in the first half of the season. So Steve Cooper did decide to change the formation at some point, and it kind of got us over the line then. So I think it's 10 points clear of Reading in the end. So It looks like it was safe. But when we played Reading a couple of weeks ago, if they won that game, it could have been a different story. So, we'll take where we are now. But obviously, it's the second year in a row in the playoffs. So I don't want to be disrespectful to Barnsley, but I think Swans fans are kind of expecting to win that game, or the 2 legs.
And the guys' details are in the descriptions if you want to check out the channels and the podcasts as well, and also the Twitter accounts. Now, for AFC Bournemouth, we obviously got relegated last season. Also, our legend special one, Eddie Howe, also left the club. So Jason Tyndall came in and we hit the ground running pretty well, although probably picked up too many draws in the first half of the season. January came and that's sort of when it changed for us, really. We lost games that we shouldn't have lost to against teams lower in the division, and Jonathan Woodgate would then take over as head coach until the end of the season. Probably the reason we're in the playoffs is that 7-game unbeaten run, picking up points against Watford as well, including Norwich away. And once they were secured, you could clearly see that the mindset was to stay fit and not get injured before the playoffs. But again, we comfortably finished in the playoffs with about 7 points between us and Reading. So let's go back then to the games, and let's start with Barnsley and Swansea, shall we? Let's go back to the games in the season. And the first game between Swansea and Barnsley, Luke, I was at your place, December the 19th, and it was 2-0. I mean, what's your recollection of that game?
So the first game, I think we were better in the first game than the second game. I would argue Barnsley probably a little hard done by in the second game. But I'm not saying we were necessarily good. We kind of played them, I think it was like 3 weeks apart, both legs. And it was the sort of beginning of the period where we went from... We were winning games. Our defence was always solid, but we were kind of scoring and being efficient at that time. By the second time we played them, it was changing to like we were struggling to score. We got a bit lucky again against them and scored at the right times. But they had more possession than us. They had more shots than us. We just were more clinical, essentially. So, which is the story of our season, really. I can't say it was a comfortable win. They definitely caused us trouble. And I think, if anything, the high press is probably a bigger weapon since then. So I'm sure we will discuss that going forward. But it is a lot to think about for Steve Cooper.
So, Carlo, that was a 2-0 loss then for Barnsley, and you went into the second game of the season in the fixtures, and it was the same result again. I mean, your thoughts on that first game and that second game?
I think, if I remember rightly, Swansea was the first game that sort of set up to really target that high press, and that worked. I suppose we're a little bit better equipped now because many sides followed. You know, they countered what we did by almost playing a similar style. I think it would be fair to refer to Barnsley that I think since especially maybe the end of January, when the likes of DK and Carlton Morris started playing, that we started scoring a little bit more and looked more, can I say, comfortable in possession. Because I think, we've got front three that can be interchanged. We've got essentially 6 strikers to choose from. But that only really started working for us since the introduction of DK and Morris. So, yeah, I think... our head coach is using this as sort of like a, motivation to set the record straight almost.
Any thoughts on that, Billy? I mean, that fixture between Swansea and Barnsley, I'm surprised Barnsley didn't score a goal because they beat us at the Vitality Stadium.
Yes, I mean, between Swansea and Barnsley, you're saying?
Yeah, your thoughts on those two fixtures where they lost 2-0 both times to Swansea? Yeah,
I mean, the thing about it is that, again, that time is, I mean, obviously they played them twice. I mean, that time Swansea were, and like I said to Luke said it as well, particularly at the beginning of the season, they were a team where last season, I have to admit, I looked at Swansea and I said, tell you something, they could be a danger next season. They finished 6th, but they could be a danger next season because like he's the type of player, listen, he's got experience and he's dangerous. So, but front end of that season, actually, Swansea, like I said to you, I thought they were a danger and they had the tight defence. So to be quite honest with you, and Barnsley were, in a way, they were kind of finding their way. They were playing some great football. Even from back end of last season, we saw it, when they played us last game of the season. They're fighting for their lives and they beat us to save themselves from relegation. And again, Brentford fans, and Carlo knows this as well, we tap our hats to you and we say, listen, fair play to you. You guys, you play some great football and you should not be where you are. The following season, you're going to do better. I admit, I think you've done fantastic to actually get into the playoffs because I don't think anyone predicted you to do that well. But I think there's, a lot of people. I mean, I predicted you to be sort of kind of top half. So the fact is that, when you're playing Swansea, you probably played Swansea at the right time because Swansea were firing at the time and you guys were still finding your feet. And then again, like I said to you, the second time again, I can't remember seeing the second game, but again, for that one, Swansea got out the result from you guys. But I think that overall, you have kind of proven that you kind of have learnt a few lessons from probably earlier on in the season. And I think that's the key thing, which possibly can set you up for your next game, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later.
Let's look at Bournemouth and Brentford then. And the first fixture was away at Brentford. And do you know what, Billy? I thought we were brilliant this day, especially the first 15, 20 minutes. It's probably the best 20 minutes I've seen all season from AFC Bournemouth. We come out the traps. Dom Solanke got a goal in the 25th minute. And arguably, we should have had more than that in the first half. But Brentford did get 2 goals and won the game 2-1. And actually, how you beat us was those aerial sort of battles. And I think it might have been 2 headers, if I can recall. And that's been our problem all season. But your thoughts on that 2-1 victory at home for you?
That game was a real key game for us. I remember it coming up. It was just after Christmas, if I remember right, the 29th of December, I think it was. And we, like I said to you, we come out of bit of this slump that we were in when we were sort of kind of quite low in the league, and then we went on this unbeaten run, and we were doing really well. And we'd just beaten Reading just before Christmas. But the key game was this Bournemouth game, because everyone's saying, all the Brentford fans were saying, look, this is going to really show us where we're at. You had 5 clean sheets before that. You were on a fantastic run, and so we knew that we had to be properly on form when we had to come. When you were coming to us to actually get a result out of that game. And most Brentford fans again would have said at that time, we take a point from that and then we move on forward. We started that game, and I remember you started that game where I think Pontus Janssen cleared off the line from, I think it was Solanke after in the first minute. And I think we were like, kind of rabbit in the headlights, thinking, Jesus, what's going to go on here? Like, how many goals we're going to let in? So that was quite tight. And then I thought you were really brilliant. You were just passing the ball really quick in the first 10 minutes. And it really took us a little bit of time to just kind of get into that game. As you said, Solanke scored early on. I think it was on 16. And so we were behind in that game. And I think my heart sank at that time, because I just thought, listen, Bournemouth, everyone was talking about the money that you had and coming down and parachute, all that kind of stuff which made you much more powerful than a team like this. And we knew that we're going to have to come against a side like Bournemouth. We did Norwich a little bit earlier, and I think we were unlucky to draw to them. They got a lucky goal in the last minute, but we thought actually Bournemouth was going to be the team that we're going to have to really do the business against. And but we just stepped it up after 10, 15 minutes. We stepped it up, and I thought we were absolutely brilliant that day. And we really did step it up. We took the game to you. In the second half, we stepped it up again. Defensively, we were tight. Dalsgaard got a header. And then very late on, Tarek Fosu came on, and he got a header as well from, I think, Mbume did a cross. And I thought we were just fantastic. And from that day, I think we moved up to second place after that game. I remember I spoke to a couple of my Bournemouth friends, and they were actually really quite depressed after that game, because I think that they felt that they were going to. I think they felt it was a given that they were going to win the game, and also they felt that they felt that it kind of sort of was a little bit of a light about what the Championship is about, because there's no given in the Championship, as you know. You can't just go in and just steamroller every single team. As you know, you're talking to Barnsley fans here, you're talking to Swansea. You just can't do that. And I think it was a bit of a kind of a light for a lot of Bournemouth fans, realising that I think this league is probably going to be a little bit harder than they thought. And we came away from that sort of quite proud, thinking actually kind of we're setting ourselves up quite nicely for the new year. And, a month and a half ago, we were thinking if we get into the playoffs, we'll be lucky. We're sitting there in the doldrums at the bottom of the league. And now we're actually sitting in second place, thinking actually we can go on from there. So that was a real key moment for Brentford this season.
And in the second fixture between the teams, again, AFC Bournemouth will come out the traps. We had a really good chance in the 7th minute. Junior Stanislat would slip on a 1-on-1, and that would sort of be the story of our game. Brentford would end up going down to 10 men, but Brian Abomo would come off the bench and score the winner with 10 men. And that would sort of take us out of that really good form that we had. And I think actually we were confirmed a playoff place after that game once the full-time whistles had gone around the country. But Luke, when you look at those fixtures between both of those teams, I mean, what's your thoughts on those results?
Well, the first one you mentioned, you said you looked really good at the start of that. I actually watched a lot of that game myself, and I literally would say the same thing. Like I said in our video that we did the other day, I don't know how you went more than 1-0 up at the start of that match, and then you just sort of like tailed off, and Brentford came back into it, and yeah, they came back into it because they played well. But I feel like you had enough opportunities to finish them off. So I think that might have been a big momentum swing, because like Billy has talked about, it helped them, and maybe some of the Bournemouth guys felt a little bit less happy afterwards. And we all know, obviously, your manager ended up being changed not long after. The second game, I didn't see too much about it, but I don't know how much the mentality will have that, one team has won both games going into the playoffs. We kind of have it with Barnsley. I'm a little bit worried because of the revenge aspect, but then that could make you happy, because you want to show that you don't want to be beaten three times in a season by the same team, do you? Or 4 times? Like, it's I don't know how much that's going to have an impact on the players' minds going into the game. But I think your game is what I thought was going to be the playoff final, and I don't know what I would like to call it over 2 legs. It's going to be tight, I think.
We'll come.
I'll tell you something interesting. I'll say, Luke, sorry, and I interrupt you. It's interesting you say that because you've won 2 games over Barnsley, as you say. We've won 2 games over Bournemouth. And I don't know what's going on in Swansea land, but I think, maybe there's a sort of bit of, not presumption from some fans thinking because they've beaten you twice, then it's going to happen 3 times. Whereas there's almost like the exact opposite with Brentford because like we've won the 2 games, but I don't know if it's because we've lost so many playoffs and we've just been in this position so many times. There is absolutely no resting on any laurels here at all. Yeah. And you will not see any Brentford fan going, we are going to go inside there and beat them again because, like I said, I've been to 10 playoff finals. I've seen them 9. This is the 10th one, isn't it? Well, yeah, it's the 10th one. I've been to 9. I've literally been on the terraces for 9, in the pub for the last one, and I've seen every single one of them. We've lost every single one of those playoffs. So for me, I'm not going to say anything. And yes, we did finish 10 points or whatever it is above Bournemouth, but that means nothing as far as we're concerned because this is clean slate. We might as well not have played them 46 games this season. We might as well just had a big holiday and then all come back and started on the 17th of May and come back. And that's what I'm going to say about that. So no one out there, no Bournemouth fan, we're not resting on laurels, mate. This is Brentford here, and we've seen it all before.
And just to come off of that then, Carlo, we are in a similar boat. We are coming up against teams that have done the double, but your brief thoughts on those results between Bournemouth and Brentford?
Yeah, listen, as a Barnsley fan, even early on in the season, a fixture such as Bournemouth-Brentford, they're the sort of matches you watch or you look back on because you think that's promotion, maybe playoffs, because expectation is, isn't it? Obviously, we know about Brentford, last game of the season going to the playoffs rather than automatic, so you expect them to be there again. Brentford's model of sort of behind the scenes is very much like Barnsley, but maybe with a bigger budget where you can sell Ollie Watkins, but you just bring Ivan Toney in, and that it's seamless, isn't it? So they had a really good season. We expected them to be up there again. Bournemouth coming down. In my eye, and I can't speak for all Barnsley fans because that would be ridiculous. In my eyes, I always thought Bournemouth was probably best placed to do really well, just because of the strength and the experience as well. And I think when you see a side like Bournemouth losing, I think that gives hope to other sides that it can be done, because I think often there is that thought of, they can have from the Premier League, and but you look at some of the players in your side, and as a fan, you think oops. And like Luke said, Swansea, me and Billy were on another interview a couple of days ago. When somebody said, who's the biggest danger? See, I said Swansea. This was my worst nightmare. Not because they've beaten us twice, because I think very much like Billy, this is a separate competition, isn't it? This is completely separate competition. This is where nerves start. This is more about the personnel that they have. And I've said it before, I've been record, and I will say it again. I think the problem with Swansea is they've got match winners in their squad, and you can have all the high press you want, you can have all the energy and everything else, but when you have somebody like Andre Ayew, when you have somebody like Conor Horan, who we know very well, that's almost worth a 12-man. When heads go down, if we do go a goal down. So listen, I'm looking forward to it. I think between Watford, Norwich, Bournemouth, Brentford and Swansea, I would have expected these sides to be roughly up there. I forecasted us to finish 12th and have the best season ever. So I'm just happy to go along for the ride, lads.
Lots more talk to come, but make sure you get involved in the chat as well. Let us know what you think, and we're going to get stuck into the actual team stats and see what team can hurt the other team. Make sure you hit that like button. Swansea, Luke, last 6 games, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses, 8 goals, 8 conceded. Now, 56 goals for the season, 2 goals only in the first half in the last 11, though.
It's been a problem. Scoring goals has definitely been a problem. The first half of our season, our defence was insane. We were on to break records, I think, up to January. And it's quite funny, actually, because the January transfer window ended, and then all of a sudden things started going wrong, where you think, oh no, we didn't buy the right people. We definitely didn't buy a striker, as you can see by our lack of scoring. Andre Ayew has been injured a little bit in this run of the last 8 games, so maybe that is part of the reason. However, we've had Liam Cullum come back from injury, so he hasn't hardly played since January, where he got injured in a cup match. So it's a combination of things. We've also changed the formation in these games, where we've gone to 4 at the back rather than 5. We definitely seem to have conceded a few less than we were in maybe the 8 games before, because that's why we changed the formation. We were conceding goals we weren't conceding earlier in the season. Some of them are quite soft. Coming out the second half especially, there's been a few games that first 3 minutes after half-time, we've gone 1 down. And then we only seem to switch on after that, which again highlights the lack of goals in the first half, and often coming back like we did against Reading, we did it against Derby. So it's not the most confident environment down here going into the playoffs. If you'd asked us like 3-4 months ago, it would have been a completely different sort of atmosphere, if you like. Obviously, everybody's happy to be there, and as someone's mentioned earlier, it's a separate thing to the league. It's a new tournament, if you like. So you've got to look at like Steve Cooper. Then he's had a record in knockout tournaments from his England time with the under-17s. So maybe his managerial experience of that style of football, like a tournament sort of competition, is going to come into play here. He had the experience from last year as well, where obviously we didn't go through the first leg. And I know Brentford also have that experience. But I guess it's about who learns from it the most, isn't it, as well? So we do still have a good defence, even though it's not the best in the league anymore. It is something that we still got to be using to our advantage going into this little mini tournament.
Bournemouth then, 73 goals this season, 46 conceded. We did have that 7 consecutive win run that we did really well. And obviously we've got players like Danjuma and Solanke that have scored 15 goals this season. Brentford, Billy, unbeaten in the last 12, I think, won the last 4, haven't lost since March the 3rd, 79 goals, 48 goals come in the second half.
Yeah, we don't give up, as they say. I mean, the thing is, listen, Brentford, as a lot of people know, we're very much a stats-based side. We base a lot of what we do on statistics. Again, a lot of the statistics that we use are statistics that, that we've got no idea what they are, because the owner, he owns a statistics company, and that's what they do for a living, and he makes lots of money out of it. So that's what he kind of plows into, and that's kind of how we bought our players, and that's how we kind of sort of dictates our play to a certain extent. So it's quite interesting, because even the last couple of years, because I mean, you've thrown a couple of stats at us there, and even over the last couple of years, I mean, we've had Dean Smith who come in, and we go through a series of results, and we haven't won. We won 1 game in 21-22, and even us at Beesotted, like the fanzine, we talked to some of the people senior in the club, who's dealing, and they said to them, "Look, what's going on here?" And they say, "Listen, don't worry about it. We're not fussed at all. As far as we're concerned, the stats are saying we're on target, so that's fine." You're thinking, but we haven't won in like 12, 13 games. That's fine. When Thomas Frank came in, I think he won 1 game out of 10 or 11 or something like that. There was all kinds of, you're getting sacked in the morning by the fans and everything like that. Straight to the kind of the guys in the coaching department as well. Again, beside, we said, "What's going on here?" We're getting a bit nervous. They said, "No problem. What they're doing is great. It's fine. It's just been unlucky. They're doing the right things. We're making them." And basically, a lot of people hate XG, but we not only live our life by that, but that kind of metric that we use. If you're doing the right thing, putting the ball in the right type of area, and creating the chances, they believe it's going to come. And I think you probably do an analogy where we're in the Championship, so you can only afford certain players. If you were doing the things that you were doing in the team and creating the chances, so XG sort of basically kind of shows you how good a chance that you created, the bigger quality of chance. Now, if you've got some guys in for the Premier League and they're on 20, 30, 40, 50 million pound strikers, you create them same chances, those guys are putting in the back of the net. And that's kind of the difference between Championship sides and Premier League sides. And that's the reason why we're not in the Premier League and you guys are not in the Premier League. We're hoping to get there. So I think the reason why I'm sort of kind of coming onto that, because I think it's really important, is that one thing I noticed, I was looking at the stats that we look at as well. For most of the season, we've been there basically creating great chances. They use the XG stat, which I know a lot of people don't like, But I think it's a great thing because it gives you an idea if you're doing the right things. If you're putting the ball, if you're putting the ball on the 6-yard box, in the penalty area, you put it in the 6-yard box for somebody put it in the back of the net. Every fan's going to go, that's fantastic. Whereas, like, if every shot you're taking is from 50 yards, hoping it's going to go in, you know that you're sort of taking a bit of a chance. Brentford have been creating chances. They were top of that chart, second with Norwich, third for Watford, fourth for Muff, as we call you, Bournemouth, fifth for Blackburn, sixth, interestingly, with Barnsley. So, like I said, they create a lot of good chances because what they do, they get the ball up the pitch really quickly and they just cause mayhem. They try and cause mayhem in the area. Seventh for Borough, eighth for Reading, ninth for Stoke, and 10th for Swansea. So I was using that to see the difference between the sides. Swansea basically keep it really tight at the back. And then what they do is they try and hit you on the break and try and nick a little goal here or there. We saw that when we played Swansea, I think it's up at their place. It was a really interesting game because Swansea, they didn't even try. They didn't even try to come out the heart. It was a really weird game. And all the Brentford fans going, why aren't Swansea kind of trying? So what they're doing, they were sitting back, letting us attack. Of course, Brentford create loads of chances, misses them all because that's kind of what we do a lot of the time. And that's why we're in this division, missing loads of chances, getting really frustrated, eventually scored a goal. And then eventually Swansea get a little break, get a free kick, loft the ball in the area, bang in the back of the net. They're sort of one chance in the game and they score from it. So that's the danger that you've got to look at because Swansea maybe get 1 or 2 chances or 3 chances per game and they're scoring that. And recently, that might have changed a little bit because maybe of tiredness or whatever like that, but they've had a break now. We've had a break, so all I'm hoping, just coming back to this, is that we can capitalize on the fact that we are creating good chances. Hopefully Ivan Toney is chilled out, so he can go and capitalize those chances and we put them on the back of the net. And I think that, the same for other teams that are hoping that they will actually capitalize on what they're good at. But what we're great at is creating chances, putting the back of the net, and also defensively, we haven't been too bad as well. So if we continue that, we are in not too bad shape. I keep saying this, touching wood, because I'm not resting on any laurels.
Got to be very careful to mention XG on this channel. We do have a contributor in John who loves an XG stat. So, Carlo, Barnsley, I think there were 23 wins, 9 draws, 14 losses, plus 58 goals, more goals in the second half. Interestingly, you don't mind not having the ball, 47% possession over the whole season.
Yeah. Barnsley's game plan is you get the ball in the opponent's half, you have a high press, and you force them into making a mistake because then you're going to have to run 70 yards to try and get a cross in because you're already in the area. And I think the thing is for Barnsley that it suits players, doesn't it? I think we still have one of the youngest squad in the EFL. They are super fit. And you talk about the goals in the second half. He's got 6 strikers to choose from. So he might start on Sunday with, Freezer, Woodrow and DK. And they will run the defence ragged. And then if it doesn't work, he'll take them off. And on come Adebayo, Morris and Chaplin. And although they're all different strikers, what they do really well is they will constantly put defences under pressure. And I think we are now comfortable not having the ball. And you can hear from the side of the pitch, you can hear Valeria Ismail now or press because the play is being better, choosing when it's the right time to press or maybe sit back and just let them have the ball. So, and that's a story of the season that we've got better in because of the coach. But yeah, we don't mind not having the ball, but we will chase heaven and earth to get it off you.
Okay, let us know in the chat now. I'm going to ask all you guys in just a moment. But if there's one player in your football team, so whoever you're supporting in the chat right now, let us know if there's one player in your football team that can take the playoffs by storm and take your team to the Premier League. So I'll come to you first, Luke. There'll be a few players, if you want to mention them briefly, that can help you. I know Bidwell and your fullbacks, obviously your assist makers, but one player in your football team that can take you to glory.
I think it's quite obvious for ours. I think everyone will say the same. Neutral fans and Swans fans, but it's got to be Andre Ayew. If you're going to have someone as a big game player with experience, he's captain of his international team. He's been in the Premier League. He's been in League One in France. Played in Turkey. If he turns up, he can carry that team himself score the goal. I think he missed the goal actually last season against Brentford in the first leg. He missed a penalty, but he still managed to like bounce back from that and make a massive impact and let us, get us to win that first leg. So if he turns up on that day, he's a leader in the dressing room. They all look to him. He gets on really well with Steve Cooper. He's a player that arguably most fans and Graham Potter as the previous manager, he wasn't in the plans in the first season after we came down from the Premier League. He went out on loan. Nobody was expecting him to come back into the picture. And I would argue he's probably one of the only reasons that last season we made it to the playoffs. I don't think we would have got there without his contribution throughout the year. And if he wasn't here this season as well, obviously there's a lot of other contributors now, and I wouldn't have been so confident saying we wouldn't get there, but we wouldn't have been so comfortable all year because he's going to be hard to replace. If we don't go up this season, then that's a problem we've got on our hands.
From an AFC Bournemouth point of view, there are players like David Brooks, like I said, that if he turns up, he is dangerous with those feet. Philip Billing has stepped up to the plate this season and had his best return ever in his career. And every time Philip Billing scores, guys, and especially for you, Billy, Bournemouth don't lose football matches. We win every single time Billing scores. So keep that in mind. But Danju Magic, I think he picked up another trophy in the Championship today for his goal of the month. He is one that's a fan favourite, and it is a Bournemouth channel. So I am expecting a lot of this to come through. There is a David Brooks in there as well. But Billy, is this going to be an obvious question? Who's going to be the man that's going to take you to glory?
Well, I'm going to, if it's all right, I'm going to go for a few players actually, because the thing is, there's obviously you've obviously got a graphic for one particular person, okay? But what I was going to say, but what I'm going to say just out of this, because I've got to give these guys props, or else they're going to be going, "What are you talking about? It's not a one-man team, we are." Okay, so who have we got? Okay, we got Sergi Canos, right? He got really badly injured, okay, for years, and then he's come back and he even got a little bit of abuse again at the beginning of the season because he wasn't like he was before, and he wasn't Benrahma. But it's like, well, you're not Benrahma because you're Sergi Canos. But recently, Sergi's just upped his game, and he's been brilliant. So if he's on fire, I think he's really important as well. Another player that I talked about as well, who's a really important player for us, is Jensen. A lot of people don't know about him. He's an attacking midfielder and he's a great player, but he's one of these players who sometimes he doesn't, and I hate to say he doesn't turn up, because sometimes that's a bit of a lazy term that you give to footballers, because of course they turn up. Sometimes they just have bad games. So sometimes he doesn't have a great game and sometimes he has a great impact on the game. Now, if Jensen has a great impact on the game, then he's going to be a really, really key player for us. And I'll say to you, I said this before, you've got good Jensen, and sometimes you've got bad Jensen. So we want to have good Jensen on the days that we play all our playoff matches as well. And then Ivan Toney, I'm going to talk about Ivan Toney because he scored 31 goals this season. There's an argument as to whether or not he is the best striker in the Championship ever or not, whatever like that. I don't really care about that. All I care about is the fact that he has been playing for Brentford and he plays for us, and he's only been playing in the Championship for one season. He has taken it by storm. He's also had 10 assists as well. He's an all-round player. If you look at him half the time, sometimes you're thinking, especially when he's playing up with four, so you're thinking, why isn't Toney in the box? You find him, he's out in the wing, he's out in defence, he's doing all sorts of stuff. So he actually's really helped our defensive effort as well. So Ivan Toney is a massively key player for us, and obviously we didn't want him to get injured when he played those last few games, trying to get his record. And he played against Watford and Watford, Bristol City in the last game of the season, and Brentford fans were not happy about that at all. Like I said, we were all in the pub, about 60 of us in the pub, actually just chanting away. And when Toney scored the goal, honestly, it was like you were some sort of kind of mass. Everyone just got up, and there was some sort of kind of applause around the whole pub. And then everyone just started shouting, "Sub, sub, sub, sub." And when he came off, massive applause from all the Brentford fans, like, you know what I'm saying? So Ivan Toney's brilliant. But the player, and I'm just going to say, the player I want to talk about is actually Christian Norgard. This is the player like no one talks about, okay? Christian Norgard, central defensive midfielder, absolutely brilliant, got injured. So he was injured beginning of the season all the way through to about March. So that whole period that we slumped out, we had to find a player that was going to replace him. We found it quite hard. And in the end, Janelt came out of nowhere. We signed him from Germany for £500,000. He's been brilliant. But Christian Norgard, we were going to build our team around him this season, and he got injured, and we really suffered badly because of it. He's a defensive midfielder who played in Denmark, then he played in Italy, but he actually used to be an attacking midfielder. So the fact is that he's a defensive midfielder with an attacking head on him, and you can see the way that he builds the play and he plays the ball out for the players. What we've done, after our little slump, we moved him into the back of the three. So we play three at the back now, and he's in the middle of the three where Janot actually plays in there as well. And he's a revelation. He's a brilliant player. For me, Ivan Toney is a wicked player, but Christian Norgard is the person that I think who is going to steady the ship at the back, but also link the play and get our players up. And fingers crossed, hopefully, scoring the goals that we need to score.
And hopefully Lerma or Pearson for AFC Bournemouth can stop that attacking play from hurting us. Now, Carlo, I was impressed with some of your players. When you came to the Vitality Stadium and you won 3-2, you got players like Moat and Woodrow. But what players are you expecting to shine in the playoffs?
It's difficult, isn't it? I think Barnsley went back to basics, and what we stopped doing is making those mistakes at the back, which really crippled us the season before. Mads Andersen doesn't get often a mention, but he's really grown up. Michael Halleck has been absolutely amazing. I can talk about Callum Styles, of course, Woodrow. I think the arrival of Daryl DK in January, the last played 20 matches, he scored 9 goals. You have to sort of wonder, what if we would have brought him in a little bit earlier? For a 20-year-old coming over from the MLS, playing for Orlando, took no time to really settle in. He's built like an NFL player. He'll run through brick walls, and he scores goals. And what that allowed to do... Oops, my mum, sorry.
Yeah, all right.
It's that
game started. 24 hours.
It's taken the pressure of Coley Woodrow, because for a long time, all the pressure for goals for Barnsley, the pressure was on Coley Woodrow. I would presume, but I don't know. It'll be Woodrow, DK plus one more, obviously starting on Monday against Swansea, and I think that will be the difference in regard to those other matches. So, Alex Morgan's got the engine at the back, but I have to go for the impact that Daryl DK's had, especially on the latter half of the season. Let's
briefly take a look at this then. These were the lineups in the last fixture between the teams on Swansea and Barnsley. Now, Luke, how close is this team going to be on Monday?
I can't decide what formation we're going to play, so I think we're going to stick to the 4 because he didn't change it towards the end of the season. So, in that case, Connor Roberts probably drops out. Bidwell slots to left back. Corey Smith, I would say, swaps for Horahan, which I'm not sure is what Carlo wants to hear. Because I didn't mention that other people than Ayew, but Horahan is one to look out for with his past playoff experience and playing against his past club. That could be, that's a newspaper story, isn't it? If he gets a goal there. And he has come out actually, and he's been talking this week saying there's no room for sentiment in this game. So hopefully he backs that up with some good performances. But other than that, Roberts would be swapping for Liam Cullen, and Andre Ayew would be playing on the right wing with Lowe on the left wing, Liam Cullen through the middle. And I think that actually allows Andre Ayew to play better because he's been kind of marked out of the games up front a lot the second half of the season, and Lowe and Ayew haven't had much luck as a result of that. But by putting him on the wing, often teams double up on him. So he's taking 2 people out wide and he's just creating a lot of space through the middle, whether that's someone like Jay Felton running through or just giving space for Cullen or Lowe just to have a little bit more like they can do more with the ball. They're not closed down. They're not always passing backwards. Seems to have worked a little bit in the recent weeks, so that's what I'm expecting to see. And Barnsley wouldn't have played against that this season as well because we played this formation twice against them. So that maybe could be a key factor in this game as well.
Carlo, this was the starting 11 the last time you played Swansea. It doesn't have DK in it. How close is this starting 11 going to be on Monday?
Goalkeeper is Jack Walton, will be Brad Collins. Halleck Anderson will definitely play. It's Solbauer or Civic. If you've got pace in your team, I would presume you might play Civic, although Solbauer is a real leader at the back. Styles, yes. Herbie Kane, no. Romel Palmer has been partnering Alex Mowat for the majority of the season with Callum Britton out wide. Up front, Coley Woodrow, yes. Chaplin and Adebayo have been very much used as impact subs. I would probably presume that somebody like DK and maybe Freezer will start with the other ones coming on later.
And just a quick word on...
There's one thing I forgot to mention there, if you don't mind.
Yep.
In that game, Connor Roberts did a long throw-in and Cabango scored the goal. If you remember that, it was like a throw into the box. But I didn't mention Kabanga probably also won't start. It'll probably be Ryan Bennett. So again, that's one weapon that we scored from last time that's probably not going to be available to us from the start of this game.
Let's look at Bournemouth and Brentford then, Billy. And Bournemouth will look with Asmir Begovic in goal. I think he's had 45 appearances out of 46. Lloyd Kelly will probably replace Diego Rico, and the back four will stay the same with Steve Cook, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Adam Smith. I expect Jeff Lerma and Ben Pearson to be holding midfielders, with Phil Billing having that number 10 free role into link between the two holding midfielders and playing alongside Arne Danjuma and David Brooks, with Dom Solanke trying to add to his 15 goals. That was your starting 11 when you beat us 1-0, Billy. How close will that team be come 5 o'clock on Monday?
I can't 100% say, just because Thomas Frank he's a wily old chap, he is, and he might decide to keep it the same, or he might decide to change it up a little bit. What's interesting, because I know that you had your stats on the player who every time he's like played or something like that, you've won. We've also got Tarek Fosu as well. And Fosu, there was a stat where every time he started for Brentford, we actually won. And it was going into, I think, something like 19 odd games. So I don't know whether or not there's maybe one game that we didn't win, or maybe drew or something like that. But in general, Tarek Fosu, there's one of these stats which people are going to throw in there, which, to be quite honest with you, it's all superstition, really, isn't it? That he's won. So it's interesting to see him in the game. Now, Tarek Fosu is in there because, as well, what we did is that and I didn't talk about this earlier, one of also the key down points of our season is that we lost two massively key players for us. One is Rico Henry, who some will argue is one of the top three, if not the best left back in the division as well. Fantastic player. And he's like an attacker for us. So what he does is that the way that we play, when we lose the ball at the back, we win the ball at the back, then we actually break out really quickly, and Rico Henry becomes part of the attack. So you've got Rico Henry that we miss, and also we've got Josh Da Silva, who's a player who can basically just change the game in midfield. So we've lost those two players, and that's part of the key when we actually had the big slump and we couldn't win, for money over a number of games. But to be fair to Thomas, what he did is he interestingly switched almost like the flip side of what Swansea have done, because Swansea were kind of three at the back, Frank at the back, and then they've gone back to the back four, whereas we were, a back four before, and now we've gone three at the back, five at the back. And initially we put Mads Beck Sorensen, who is almost like a sort of kind of junior centre back who had to come into play because one of our Pontus Janssen got injured. Then all of a sudden Rico Henry got injured, so we put him on the left back. But he's not really a left back, what I'm saying? So you've got a junior centre-back playing at left back, and it was all right, but it wasn't really working for us. But then recently, two Brentford players, apparently it was Pontus Janssen and Norgard, knocked on the door of Thomas Frank's office and said, look, things aren't really happening at the moment now. What about this? How about, Norgard putting me in the middle here? Let's try this out, and let's put one of these guys at the back. So they flipped it, and they suggested to Thomas Frank make a change. He said, all right, then they weren't sure it's going to ever work. We had three at the back, five at the back with Norgard in the middle. Then we put our wingers, which is tried with Mbumo first of all. So we went left back. So all of a sudden, we saw the fixtures come up, and all the Brentford fans going, "What's going on? Who's playing at left back?" We couldn't work out until we saw them line up, and it was like, Mbumo's at left back, but he's a winger, And it was brilliant. He had a brilliant game. So we played a few games at left back. Then the next few games, Sergi Canos turns up and he was at left wing back as well. And everyone's like, cool, blimey, what's going on here? So there's a little bit of jiggery-pokery going on with Brentford, where I think at the moment now, we feel confident where we can change things up. We can go four at the back, we can go three at the back, we can put our wingers at the back, we can put our rookie left back at the back. So you've asked me a question, I'm not quite sure. So I would just like to say, yes, he's going to keep it like that and just keep everyone guessing, okay?
And as we go into the final few minutes of this show, thank you for everyone who's joined us and interacted. I've just got one little question for you, Luke, from Amy. Do we match Barnsley's formation, try and outplay them, or go for?
I just think that he's changed the formation because we couldn't score goals. And he has been obviously giving Liam Cullen game time after he's come back from injury. The issue is goal scoring, and we have maybe scored a few more than we did in that period before, after we've changed the game. It allows a different side of our game. Like, you don't get Connor Roberts necessarily running up the wing so much and putting a cross in. So I think that he will stick with the 4. But I do understand. I think one thing you could say is maybe you go away and play 5 at the back to try and make sure you don't lose the game. And then you play the more open 4 at the back, maybe at home, when you want to make sure you score a little bit more goals to make sure you win the game. But yeah, maybe he's just trying to confuse everyone, and he's going to switch back now when it matters. And who knows? I can't answer. I honestly don't know.
Right, we want to get your score predictions in the chat. Now, hang on a minute. What we'll do is we'll do it per game. So let's go with Barnsley versus Swansea first. Just your first leg score. Okay, so just put your prediction in the chat. Now, Carlo, you've got 1 minute to tell me why Barnsley are going to do well in the playoffs and your score prediction for that first leg.
Barnsley are going to do well because there is absolutely no pressure. There is the revenge aspect that I know Luke is causing him slight nightmares at the moment. And I think the thing with Barnsley, they won't change the game plan. They will play that formation. And the high intensity we play, for that you need energy, you need youth. Youngest squad in the EFL. But maybe, rather surprisingly, I'll go for a Barnsley 2, Swansea 1.
And Luke, you've got 1 minute to tell me why Swansea are going to do well in the playoffs and your score prediction.
Okay, so I think Steve Cooper will have learnt a lot from last time. We weren't expecting it last time. This time, all season we've been there. There was a minimum expectation, especially when we were holding that position. So we go in there, we'll learn from our experience last time. We've got the extra experience from like Conor Horahan, who's gone through that recently. And I think we're a better unit in terms of like our defence. We've had an extra year under Cooper. The system's been working. And we have turned up in the big games quite often this season. So I'm going to say it's going to be a tricky away leg, and we're going to go there with the aim of not losing. So I'm going to go with 1-1. I don't know who's going to score, but I wouldn't be surprised if we come back from behind. I think they'll go ahead and we'll get a goal back.
A lot of draws in there. This could be finely balanced going into the second leg. Now, AFC Bournemouth, we are an unpredictable team. If we turn up, Billy, you are in trouble. If Arne Danjuma's in the mood, you're in trouble. If Philip Billings linking up with Arne Danjuma, things happen. And if David Brooks gets playing, we're in business. However, we have lost matches this season that we shouldn't have lost, but we have beaten Norwich, we have beaten Watford, so we can do it. I'm going to go with due a win against Brentford for a 2-1 home win. Who knows what will happen in the second leg, but we'll take something to Brentford and we'll still be in it. Now, Billy, you've got 1 minute to tell me why it's going to be different for Brentford this time and what your score prediction is for the first leg. And the guys in the chat, if you're currently watching, your Bournemouth-Brentford score predictions.
Yeah. So, listen, for us, again, we're not taking it, we're not counting any chickens at all. But I think the thing about it is that last year, I think we will lose. We will learn from last year. Okay, I mean, last year hit us quite badly just because everyone expected us to win. We had a brilliant side last year, and to be quite honest with you, it was actually quite fine margins. It was a lucky goal, a well taken goal by Fulham quite late on in a very, very tight game. And I think we learned from that. We've got young players. You've got to remember that we haven't got that much experience in our side. So I think that is going to count for a lot. But also for Thomas Frank as well. I believe that he probably hasn't slept since that last playoff final. He's just been thinking about that game the whole time. So, and I know we've taken him down the pub 3-4 hours on our podcast. We sat down there, had beers with him, and I've seen the way that he talks and he thinks. He's such an analytical bloke. So he will have thought about how he's going to win this match. So I think that experience is very important. Also, Bournemouth play football. We do quite, I'd say, and to touch wood, we do quite well against teams that play football as well. So that's quite a good thing for us. And also I like the fact that Woodgate is quite a rookie manager. So will he be able to switch it up if he needs to at any stage, like Parker did to us last season? Thomas Frank was a rookie manager last season, really, and he got done by Parker, who's still quite a rookie manager, but he's probably one older than him. So that's a kind of good as well. Good thing as well. Ivan Toney, I don't need to say any more. He's actually in our side, so he's great. And like I said to you last season, he's got championship. He's got promotion, or he's got experience in that game of scoring goals as well. But also one really big key thing for us: we're playing on a Saturday. It's going to be 12:30 in the morning, in the afternoon, Saturday week for the return match, which we're going to talk about later. But I think that this is really important because then we're going to have fans in the stadium. We're going to be in the pub from about 7 a.m. beforehand as well. So we're going to be completely potted for it. So I think the fact that fans are in the stadium for the match is going to be great for us. And we're going to give another boost to our teams and I can't wait for that. So that's why I'm thinking it's going to be great. And for me, for this one game against Bournemouth, I think we keep it tight 1-1, and let's just bring it back to Griffin Park with us in the stadium to make lots of noise. New Griffin Park, by the way. Sorry, I keep using that.
Just before we wrap up the show, that's a very good point, Carlo. I mean, your opinion, will having fans in the stadium make a difference?
You know what? I'm on the fence. My personal opinion, I love Barnsley Football Club. I might be Dutch, but if you got me through, Toby Tigers running through my veins. My personal viewpoint is they've done so well without the fans. I will take it personal if I was to go on Monday. I mean, it's been a ballot. Some of my mates are going. It'll be good because there might only be 4,000, but it is a 12-man, and that's what the fans have been wanting, and by the sounds of it, the players as well. So great timing.
Luke, will it matter if there's fans in the stadium or not?
I mean, I've argued in the past that sometimes with us, the fans don't help the players when they get on their back a little bit with Swansea. But look, it's a massive occasion, isn't it? So I think they've missed them for the course of the year. So just having that, just hearing the cheers again in your home stadium, it's got to have a positive impact in it. You've got something you're playing for that you know is going to make them happy after a tough year. So it gives the players a little bit extra incentive and makes it feel a little bit more real when they're on the pitch, when they're like, okay, yeah, this is real. This is a big match and it means a lot to the fans.
It's been a really good, informative hour, and I've learned more about this evening as we go into those playoffs. Now, thank you for everyone who's joined in. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe as well if you haven't already. Now, Luke, just remind us what you do for Swansea, and we've all made an agreement, haven't we? Win, lose or draw, we're going to be back here next Friday, same time for the second leg. We're going to review the first leg scores and look at the second leg. So are we all in agreement?
Yeah. Be it.
Excellent. Luke, tell us just again, for anyone who doesn't know about Swanscast, what you do, where they can find you. Yeah.
Okay, so Swanscast is just a Swansea fan channel started in January, so quite small. We've had a good growth and really appreciative of those so far. But if you want to check out our stuff, it's quite similar to what Kirk's doing here. We don't do so much live streaming, but we talk about all our matches, and we do try and do podcasts about wider topics as well. So we're on YouTube mainly. Just type in Swanscast and you should find us. Our main social media platform is Twitter, where we are at Swanscast Media, and we also get our podcasts out on Spotify as well. So check us out there.
Carlo, great to see you again. Always enjoy listening to what you've got to say. Tell us again about the Reds Report and how you're looking forward to it.
So the Reds Report is at Reds Report _, bit like Luke, mainly on Twitter. I just want to point out that on YouTube, we started a feature called The Team Behind the Team. Given the season that Barnsley's had, the club has given us access to some of the people who work on match days, the physiotherapist, the club secretary, which has been really, really, really well received. So it's a weekly show on Audio Boom, Spotify, Apple, and on YouTube as well, at Reds Report _
And Billy, great to have you on the channel for the first time. Yeah, just tell us a bit about what you do for Brentford, and excited that you are.
Thank you. So basically, I co-run Beesotted, which is B as in Bumblebee, BEESOTTED. And we actually started off as a fanzine about 30 odd years ago. Believe it or not, we've been going for that long. And then we morphed into a blog, video blog. We've got loads of video blogs on there as well. We come off the video blogs a little bit now. And then we actually do more podcasts, and still we do blogging as well. So we've got a podcast at prideofwest.london. We do a podcast once a week, which I haven't done this week yet because you got in the way, which is fine. Actually, I'm saying I hope to do one before the match quite soon. Like I said, prideofwest.london. We always do a podcast after the match, straight after the match, on the terraces and in the pubs afterwards. It's always worth listening to as well. So we'll definitely have a podcast directly after the Bournemouth game from the pub, and then we'll have one the following week from the terraces as well. So that's, like I said to you, that's us Beesotted. And like you could have some Beesotted on Twitter, on Facebook, and a little bit of Instagram as well. So like I said to you, but appreciate you inviting us on here as well today. And like I said to you, may the best team win. And if it isn't us, then just let it be us.
Absolutely. And we are going to be back here then this time next week, 7:30 for the second leg debate. So make sure you check that out. I am going lineups live on Monday at the Vitality Stadium. I'm hoping the signal and everything can work, so let's hope it does, and we'll get the lineups released to you outside the stadium. But there we have it. There's the debate. 4 teams have shown their hands. Who's going to take the sort of advantage? We're going to find out in a few days' time. Make sure you give this a like and a subscribe. Thank you to everyone who's taken part and joined in. Until the next video, up the cherries. Enjoy your weekend.
Cheers.